Between countries, you have different cultures. Okay, sometimes some countries may have partly shared culture or so, but on the whole, you can find many different cultures in the world, and to some extent, they follow the borders between countries also. Also, from within countries, you have different cultures. It can be from one city to another, some difference, and the north and south can be different and so on in cultures. There can be minorities living in the country which have a different culture. So there are several culture issues there also. This is important in many cases. When you're doing business, you need also to adapt to the cultures you are marketing and selling to. The people you are going to have a relationship with, or your company should have a relationship to. There are so many aspects that you need to include in your plan. Culture are also different things for depending on what you're doing. Different cultures have different ideas which you need to adapt to. It's important to include this in the business idea and when you decide who your customers are. Maybe you are in a local area and you have a shop there and you don't have much of a culture issue, but other cases this can be important and critically important in some cases, especially if you work internationally. There are cultures which are different between countries, but there are also cultures which are different within a country. For instance, I work a lot with India, and they say that India has 5,000 groups of people speaking 400 languages, written with 38 different alphabets, and some people are still out in the jungle living a Stone Age life, up to those who are developing new satellites or rockets going to the moon. So it is a very wide thing. So one country does not necessarily need to be one culture only, it can be many. And when you're talking about different countries, you should also see that there are differences between them. Compare USA with India, or India with Sweden, or Sweden with USA. You have three examples of very different cultures in many ways. You don't sell in the same way, you don't behave in the same way, the customers are thinking differently. What is okay in one culture is not okay in another culture, for instance. What they want in one culture is one thing, what they want in another is something else, because it's very easy to, for instance, find things. Just an example, I know that there are some bakery things that's popular in Sweden, and you can sell them to Germany because they have a similar culture in this, but you can't sell them to England because England doesn't eat that kind of bakeries. And how you behave and what you say are different depending on which culture you meet. You cannot have one behavior and think it works everywhere. For instance, if you have a document to handle over, then you can hand it over by two hands if you are in Far East or the eastern part of Asia, because they don't like you to hand it over with one hand. That's an insult. And this is small details that you first may not even know, and you're breaking the rule. Or if you come to Japan, they say that your team who comes has to have more members than the group you are meeting, otherwise you are psychologically underhand. So understand this, that different cultures need different things, and you need to learn about it, understand it when you make your plan. One culture is more formal and one other is informal. Some of buying on fact-based issues, others on relationship-based issues. And older and younger can have a bit different culture even within one and the same culture, you know. Teenager doesn't think the same as the grandparents. How you sell and market will be different, because people will understand a message in different ways in different cultures. So it's important when you are planning your marketing and sales, and when you identify your customer, who is my customer, you must also include these cultural issues. So your business idea must be adapted to these facts. What cultures are you going to deal with? One culture example is also yes and no. Some countries and cultures, you will find that they will easily give you a yes or no answers, and that's it. It's over. You have asked them a question. But for instance, in several countries in Asia, South Asia and China, Japan and so, it is quite usual that they avoid using the word no. Okay, you ask them if they want a cup of coffee, they may give you a no. But if they ask, can you do this business together with me or something like that, they may say, oh, we will think of it, but that might mean no. There often comes as hidden no's. And in some cultures, that's because they don't want to tell that there's something they can't do. In other cultures, it's because they don't want to make you unhappy. So these are different reasons why people will use that. So when you deal with some cultures, you need to understand what they put in the words. What does a word mean? And yes and no is a very simple example where it's not always clear. What is okay and not, and preferred or not, are also examples of things that can differ between these cultures. Some people want things to be done in a certain way, but others will say no. And I said, how you hand over a document can be different, or a visiting card. Some cultures you need to do it with two hands, others one hand is enough. So if you don't understand the things, you may lose a business deal. And the arguments can be different in different cultures. What arguments to use to make a buyer actually come and buy from you. Another variable, which is not only culture, but also what each individual person have in his or her mind, is attitudes to things. This can be about a long range of different things where they have different attitude, what they like and don't like, what they prefer or don't prefer. Apart from the culture difference, you can also have individual difference here. People can belong to different groups or different social levels in the society and so on. This is also an example. Politics, people can have different political ideas and so on. If your project, your startup company, includes handling different cultures, meeting different cultures, one way or another, then you must include the culture difference regarding several things. You have to look at your products and your services and how they are matching or not matching these different cultures. You have to study your information material, your web pages, how you write your mails, and so on. These need to be adapted so it works. And generally speaking, how marketing and sales is done need to be adapted to each and every place or group of people you are going to deal with. So who is your customer? Is a question that must include cultural variables, if that is something that you will meet. And if you work internationally, you may have lots of aspects to include because you have a product that goes for several markets and you cannot use the same material perhaps. You need to adapt it to each. Apart from language, there can be several other issues. And finally, remember this. Normally, the key to success in business is to be very neutral about politics, religion, and other such issues. Because if you disclose your political views or religious views, maybe the one you are going to sell to or buy from or deal with from some way, have another view, and then maybe you lose the business only because you say something they don't like. So remember this, you can listen to it, you can let them talk, you can be interesting, no problem, but don't give away your point of views unless you are very sure that's okay.